Paul Robeson was beloved by humanity. He had transcended national borders and had become as we would say, a tribune of all peoples fighting for freedom and democracy, be they in the United States, the Welsh miners, the Spanish fighters for democracy during the fight against fascism. He defended the Soviet Union. He was, from the very outset of his conscious political life, a fighter for the freedom of African nations. He was a champion of the Indian independence movement, of Gandhi, of Nehru, of the Chinese revolutionaries. I don't think we have ever seen in this country, and maybe in the world, a political figure who so embraced the aspirations of humanity as did Paul Robeson.
At a personal level, the person called Paul Robeson entered my life when I was fairly young. I mean, when I was in my teens, listening to Bistirno Dopare or Hemango Biswas' song about Paul Robeson, and then also, subsequently, of course, listening to a lot of his music, listening to his speeches, and understanding his thoughts and all of that. Paul Robeson has been a very important figure in terms of my own shaping as somebody who's engaged with cultural politics in this country.
Although Paul Robeson never visited China, the Chinese people have a good memory of him from the moment he sang the song March On of Volunteers for an audience of 7,000 at an open concert held in New York City in the year 1940, when fierce battles raging on in China against invading Japanese army, which had then already occupied northern China and eastern China. Paul Robeson said, "I want to finish this concert with the Chinese song March On, a song for the struggling Chinese people." He received stormy applause from the audience. It's the first time that Chinese patriotic song, this very song, was sung in a foreign country. Madame Song Qingling, widow of Dr. Sun Yat-sen, the founding father of the Republic of China, was deeply moved and touched by the resonant, emotionally charged voice of Robeson, and she wrote in the disc jacket of the songs, "From the songs immensely popular among the people, China has found a new strength against invaders, and the voice speaks for the peoples of all nations. It had become a bond uniting all peoples struggling for freedom."
He sought to know the essence of the great civilizations of the world. And that essence for him was to be discovered in the folk traditions, the music, the art, the food, the languages of the people. So he learned all of these languages so that he could sing the songs of many peoples in their languages. It is estimated that he was familiar with or spoke 25 languages, a good part of them being African languages.
If one is actually looking for relationships that are very deep between Africa and Asia, one has to actually go to the pre-colonial period. And literally for almost a millennium or even more than that, these two continents have been linked very substantially through trade, through movement, but very substantially through music. So this connection that he's talking about is not just a connection that is getting forged as a result of an anti-colonial feeling, but that anti-colonial connection itself, I believe, comes because there are these cultural nuances that can be that resonate with each other. So in that sense, Afro-Asia as a concept is a very live and vibrant concept.
Just from the standpoint of his character, I think I would describe him as a complete human being. A complete human being who was always working to improve his capacity to stand up for the people of the world. He dealt with the Cold War and the reactionary forces in this country the way that he dealt with everything, heroically.
Right.
And when he was brought before the Committee on Un-American Activity in the Senate, he reminded these white men that his father was a slave, that his ancestors had been brought here from Africa, and that it was his people who built this country.
Robeson was really an abiding figure in that sense, and he was the face at one level that linked the different parts of the American radical movement. So the civil rights movement on the one hand and the union movement on the other. So he really was one of the faces, let me put it that way, who was representative of anti-imperialist struggles from the center of imperialism, but with somebody who actually did have a very close connection with the anti-colonial struggles in different parts of the world, and particularly, with India, he had a very special relationship. The instinctive affinity is something that has been quite remarkable, and particularly of African Americans, towards India.
He was a man of the people and influenced every figure that of the middle of the 20th century, every figure, especially in the Black movement, was touched by and influenced by and looked up to Paul Robeson. And I'm talking about figures like Martin Luther King Jr. You cannot imagine Martin Luther King Jr. without the zeitgeist created by Paul Robeson.
Indeed, in the world of uncertainty, as we witness today, we need to unite together for certainty and unite together against force of aggression and hegemony, keeping with the spirit of Paul Robeson. Robeson stood out as a warrior for peace and solidarity for people from China, India, and other developing countries and oppressed peoples. He upheld the fighting spirit against racism, colonialism, and Western supremacy. In the world today, the global South is moving decisively away from Western supremacy and its political narratives. It's therefore more meaningful to celebrate Paul Robeson's legacy and his link with the people from the developing world and all oppressed nations. The West doesn't have the right to commit wars, crimes, and neocolonialism in the name of peace and human rights. Given the legacy of Paul Robeson, what we need to do today is to build a new international political culture of peace and human rights, so that the rigid Western perception and view of human rights and Cold War mentality will be put to an end, so that countries can really work together hand in hand and finally achieve more equality, justice, and peace.
You can't have war and peace at the same time. Either the United States will retreat from its belligerency, begin to roll back the 800 military bases, begin to seek a rapprochement with China and Russia, and by implication, Africa and India, because the war policies against China are policies to contain India, are policies to keep Africa in the grip of neocolonialism.
China and India both share the trauma of colonialism and imperialism. There are strong needs between the two peoples from the two civilizational states to embrace peace and development and prosperity, and to challenge the existing Western liberal narratives and fight against new colonialism. It's crucial to promote more dialogues, communications among different civilizations and civilizational states. The West has long pursued a strategy of divide and rule since the colonial times, but we believe in just the opposite, one message from the Chinese philosophy, that is, unite and prosper rather than divide and rule, and which we believe is in the interest of greater peace and prosperity of all mankind.
And he wanted to get at the, how would you say, that originary moment when humanity realizes itself as human. And that led him logically to the conclusion that world peace was not just necessary to preserve physical life or modern civilization, but the foundations of everything that is human.